that it asked me to press to go live.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, we're going live.
We
even
are.
as we speak.
Yes, I see it. I see it on our end as well. So rock and roll.
Probably should.
Oh my goodness! There we are on.
Actually,
you look like I look when I'm at work most of the time. I'm like this. Wait, where are they again? It's right in front of you. Where? Put your glasses on. Oh,
yeah. Oh. Been there, done that. You know.
Mm-hmm. Got the T-shirt.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, across the across our little streamosphere, welcome to the show. I'm Patrick Goodman. I am a freelance writer for the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game, among other things. We are doing our second episode of the STA Q&A, and today I have with me the beautiful and talented Red Cheek gentleman. I don't know which one of you normally goes first when you do intros, so...
Sorry, I was looking for the gentleman. Sorry. Well, it's usually me because I'm the one who has to speak up. Otherwise, nobody says
I might speak up first, and that's never a good idea.
Never a good idea. I'm Lars. I am one of the half of what's left of the Red Shirt Geeks.
And I'm Patrick, the other half. I will be playing the role of other Patrick today. I do this in other places in my life, too, so it's pretty simple.
As long as we've established who is other Patrick today, because I also wind up doing that a lot.
Usually I'm the one that the insults are directed towards, so.
Well, it's because you make it, you make it easy and necessary.
Oh, I know where I got to go. Like my ex?
Yeah, there we go.
I had to do it. That joke never gets old. Actually, it's gotten way old.
Yep. Like
I got to stop because I've got more coming, so let's just.
There we go. All right. So, you guys have only recently started running STA, as I understand it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing while I pretend I know what I'm doing and bring up.
Nobody knows what they're doing. So the idea, ever since Modiphius had announced that they were going to be releasing a Star Trek role-playing game, of course I was foaming at the mouth and begging, like a dog who wants a treat, give me. I have been wanting to play this game because my entire life I have been an absolute dyed-in-the-wool Trekkie / Trekker, whatever you want to call us.
I always like Star Wars better.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
And I, throughout the years since I've been a teenager, I've played various different Star Trek games, from the FASA system through to Last Unicorn Games, a brief stint on the Decipher system, and now we are playing a STA campaign with a group of guys that we met through the Star Trek Adventures Facebook group. Well, Patrick met him through me because that's how he meets everybody.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to leave this group, so I'm end up playing with them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do. Is I bring him into gaming groups. I play for a little bit, and then I leave, and I leave him with them. It's kind of like I keep trying to leave him with a babysitter, and then I keep going off to other.
And then I show up again.
Yes, I mean he's like a bad penny. Anyways, so I purchased the books with the idea of running the game because. Again, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Trekkie, so what better way to celebrate Star Trek than playing a small portion or a part in it? And I can't speak today because I have the tongue-tied situation. But
traits are a thing, man.
They are. I am. I am tongue tied. I think every other character I play is tongue tied. So so we joined a group of guys who had been wanting to start up a campaign. I had been wanting to run the game myself for a while, but with kind of just the two of us being there, I thought, well, we'll get around to it.
Yeah.
And then luckily we stumbled across these folks who wanted to get a new campaign going, and we've been playing for about six or so weeks now, maybe 8 weeks.
We've been through about 3 sessions. So
Three
far.
sessions, and this week is the first one we've missed. All of us have missed for the holiday. So yes, back to what I was saying. We started playing in a campaign with a group of guys. We are playing on a ship that is based in the sort of just before the motion picture era, very, very late TOS era.
Not the ship you have up there.
Right now,
not the ship.
No.
So this ship, not.
The ship you have here is my idea, which was the idea to run a California class ship, and of course I wanted it to be in line with all of the wonderful ships that we've seen named with the California class. Of course, the OG being the Cerritos from Lower Decks, and I figured since we were going to have to have a ship named after a California city, I opted to go with the USS San Dimas. And of course,
it's the most excellent ship.
Yes, it's the most excellent. So
but you gotta be careful they don't fail anything so heinously as
Yes, exactly. Every time I actually I fell in love more with the idea of just the ship, its name and what it stands for, than the actual game itself. I'm just glad. I'm glad that we have been able to find a group of guys that have wanted to run the game and are actually Trekkies.
That always helps. I've had to run a couple for. I'm not gonna say complete news, but less experienced with the franchise than some, and it's been that part's a challenge, is integrating the levels of Trek experience. That has always been a challenge for me, because you'll wind up inevitably with at least one guy who is memorized basically everything.
That's me.
Yeah, he has encyclopedic knowledge of everything that he puts his mind to.
Yeah, they threw in our initial adventure. They threw a species that we got a mention in DS9, but shows up in Star Trek Adventures. The moment I see the picture, I immediately know everything about them.
What was it?
No, Star Trek Online. I'm sorry, I said Adventures. I said Star Trek. The Zenkethi.
That's right, the Zenkethi. And of course he knew it. He knew immediately. There was no surprise. He's messaging me. He's sending me a message on Discord. It's the Zenkethi. I'm like, of course it is.
Yeah, I've.
So we got
it's taken me years.
Knowledge.
Yeah, it's taken me years and years to get past being that guy. So I know that guy well.
We often refer to that person as the rules lawyer.
Well, see, that implies a encyclopedic knowledge of the rules. Lore lawyer.
Fair enough. Lore lawyer. I'm gonna have to remember that now. I'm gonna steal some things. That's what Patrick is. That's what the Patrick I work with closely is. See, it's already started. We're not even 10 minutes into it, and I'm already confusing which Patrick's which.
Yeah.
You want me to make that easier for you? I mean, this may be your shortest episode ever if I do that.
Oh my God. But when we first started trying to put this thing together, it's been at least a month that we've been trying to get this particular thing together, and none of our schedules have until longer than that. Huh? Okay.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah.
I knew it had been a while. I hadn't. I'd kind of blanked the actual length of time from my mind because, well, that's it's like trying to plan a game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like as my favorite saying is, it's trying to herd cats.
Very much so. But when we first started talking about this, back when we were going to have Corey on as well, but he's got other commitments and couldn't make it today. One of the things that you, Lars, had talked to me about was specifically we'd started looking up and talking about momentum and threat. So, and what were your issues at the time, and do they still pertain?
Well, I do understand. I have a much better understanding of the game system and how the rules apply now. Now that I've actually played game, to be honest with you, watching how everything kind of plays out during our game sessions when we're playing on Roll20, I still kind of have to go, was that a success? Is that a failure? What does the ones and the zeros and the twos mean? But I've been getting there with it.
Yeah.
And the person who is our storyteller,
2, 1, or 0 successes.
Funny that.
Well, the challenge dies for another question or another thing entirely. The easiest thing I had grasping was the just the basic mechanic. My mistake when I first started running it. Well, actually, there were two mistakes when I first started running it. One was trying to use my old, GM thinking, because I had been, I've been doing this for 40 mumble years, and trying to use that mindset instead of actually letting some of the game mechanics do their thing. And the other one was trying to incorporate all the game mechanics before I understood them.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
that was my big mistake, was trying to incorporate, get the basic mechanic down, figure out how to get more dice involved, getting momentum and threat involved. The biggest advice that any of us have ever come up with for starting GMs, especially, newbie GMs who've never really GM'd anything, get the basic mechanic down. Figure out, okay, this is how you get a target number. This is how you you roll 2d20 and hope you roll low, and then start incorporating things like focuses and critical successes, and then start working on momentum and threat, because sometimes even for the experienced among us, if you've never played a game that involves a meta currency like that, it takes a little bit to wrap your head around.
Absolutely. So I had been familiar with STA as a system when it first went into beta back in 2016, 2017. Yeah. And it was just like one of those things that was just in my periphery, like, oh, that's interesting. I like that. I'm really excited about that, but I'll come back to that later. And then I went through, shall we say, a much darker period where I turned my back on Star Trek for a few years. And
Discovery.
Yeah. Well, and actually it wasn't even Discovery. It was,
oh yeah.
And I kind of just let it go. Well, one day, just by complete accident, I came across an actual play podcast called Starship Tempest, and I started just listening to it, and I was like, oh, okay. So the more I listened to it, the more intrigued I got.
They're not shiny anymore.
I'll say, look at that, man! Now he's gonna just watch out. Don't scratch the paint. Yeah, I kind of listened to more and more involved in it, and I got, wow, this is as much like listening to a produced audio series as much as it was listening to people play a game, because
Yeah.
they didn't present you so much with the mechanics of the game, as in you knew based on the audio prompts that they had whether something was a success, whether it was a critical success or a critical failure, which they have dubbed critical bagels. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I got to get into this. So of course I started buying all the books, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to run this game. Fun fact, spoiler alert, I have not started yet because again, the challenges of learning a new system were much more involved than I had originally planned for.
Add to the fact that we're reading through the Star Trek Adventures book to learn how to play it.
Yeah.
There have been more than one discussion about organization in the core book, but I had a question, and then my ADHD mind. So go ahead.
Oh no, it's okay. The thing for me is that it was very much excited to learn something new, while at the same time being absolutely mortified at the prospect of learning something new. They say I think they refer to the phenomena as decision paralysis, and boy was I paralyzed. And a lot of it comes down to, and it is in no way, shape, or form is it a criticism of the game system. Now that I've played it and I understand how you get from point A to point B to point C, I do much more. I enjoy it much more than I did before I started actually playing the game. And being able to discuss it in like an open forum like this, I find is really helpful, because one, we get to lambast a system that we hope in the second edition cleans up their organization, but at the same time also show our love and affection for how everything has grown and expanded since the early 70s, and the original, the OG RPG of Dungeons and Dragons has taken us, the direction it has taken us in all of these years. You mentioned that you've been at this for about 40 years. I want to say that I am officially, let's see, I started playing games when I was 14. I'm going to be 50 here really shortly. So I'm getting there, 36-ish years.
I also started at 14.
Well, there you go. And, again, it's a wonderful experience for us to be able to learn something new, but at the same time, it's still a little scary that you have to learn something new. Of course, I see other Patrick half rolling his eyes at me, because he
I absorb game systems like that's no tomorrow.
Yeah, it's osmosis. You bring him a game book, he just puts his hand.
Well, except for this one, the rules are all over the place. So I think the biggest challenge is just locating everything I needed to build a character. It took a little bit.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, that's why we have. So I'm glad we now have tools. But yeah, at the time, it was not. It was not. It was not as user friendly as it could have been. But
my experience. Yeah, I spent a lot of flipping back and forth to figure out. Okay, so I need this, but I need this, and I found the entire process difficult, even with the online tools, having to go through the book and find it. But I think that part I've got pretty much down. Although a lot of things are a little more, it's more conceptual than it is here. Put this number here, this number here, this number here. you only have 2 numbers you really need to pay attention to on roll: 6 stats and 6 character stats and 6 abilities, specific skill stats, and that's pretty much almost all your stats. For almost everything. So.
Yeah, like I say, you're not the only one to have, and I say this as someone whose name is in that book. You're not the only one who's had issues with the organization in that book.
Well, and again, we have 2nd edition coming, so I am sure that they will have taken some cues from the feedback received during the play testing era, and
beyond.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, going back, like if you're doing a compare and contrast of the systems, Modiphius' system has been by far probably the most comprehensive as far as actual raw material goes, or raw information. So I'm very happy that somebody has put so much effort into building a very meaty Star Trek role-playing game. I'm just curious as to see how things pan out in the next version going forward.
Yeah, have you looked through? What are your thoughts on the quick start that has been out now for about a month, I guess?
For me, so far, I find that it is less meaty, if you like. I think there's going to be a much better flow with this 2nd edition from what I've seen. The biggest thing, of course, I think is going to be a matter of them just tidying up the organization of the books themselves. And once we're able to find stuff more readily, then I think there'll be a lot less criticism of the system. But again, I mean, we're talking about a game system that, for the most part, has been around for 7 years. In the grand scheme of things, that's a pretty, I'd say it's pretty young. I mean, it's pretty young, all things considered. So you have to give it some forgiveness.
Yeah. We're no D&D or Shadowrun, but
yeah. Speaking of Shadowrun, I won't delve too deep because I could talk about Shadowrun until I'm blue in the face. But that's another game I've been playing since I was probably 17 or 18 years old. And there is just something about, like, when you hit onto a winner, even if you have teething problems, that game or that work is going to go the distance. And Shadowrun is another wonderful example of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been around for 35 years now. So, where did my notes go? What did I do?
And there, it looks like on our side of things, because anybody who's watching this right now we're broadcasting on all your platforms. We are simultaneously broadcasting to ours as well. And somebody who is watching our Twitch feed is Dr. Twitch 66 says, still want to see how the challenge dice work, but things seem a lot more cohesive. And I agree. I mean, I feel like the system itself is designed largely to be more fluid than a lot of other systems that we've played. There's another one here. I should have brought the book out. Let me see if I can reach it without leaving too far off camera.
I'll just fill in the space while he does that, and we'll make faces at him. I'm sure that will work well. And try to figure out what's in his Amazon box back there.
No, that Amazon box is full of special reflective films that I don't bake here in my office during the harsh Southern California summers. Yes, this is the book.
That would be a game called Demon Hunters.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
This is a very special book. This was gifted to us by the folks at Dead Gentleman and Zombie Orpheus Entertainment for assisting with some of their campaign stuff. In fact, it's autographed and
cool.
And it is one of only two copies of this book. He has the other one.
The other one's the floor below me.
So, but the whole point is that is the they use the fate system in that.
It's a modified version of Fate.
Yeah,
not specifically Fate Core or Fate Accelerated.
Right, but it is another good example of a game where you are spending more time playing the game, being the characters, than you are worrying about specific mechanics.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've enjoyed, because I haven't really, with STA, I haven't really had to worry a whole lot about specific mechanics. Like I say, you've got 6 skills and 6 stats. It gets a little more complex than that, but it doesn't have to.
It's more or less just put 2 numbers together, roll your dice, see if you get below it. If you do, good. If not, we get to have more fun that way. Well, the GM gets to have more fun.
Yeah, I was going to say depends on your definition of "we" on this one, Patrick. But so, like I said, we'd initially planned on talking about momentum. You think you got a better handle on it now, Lars? Or
I absolutely have a better handle on it. But the idea is that I think what's important to discuss, at least from my perspective, is that it is not just a generic game mechanic. I think that it adds a different aspect or element to this game that no other game system really has, or at least none outside of Modiphius's system. And that is that I think it's a really good tool for the storyteller or the game master to be able to add a little bit of spice or a little bit of extra flavor to a situation without it having to be a very black and white decision. I'm a person that likes to deal with a lot of things that are organized, in tables and everything is in columns and rows and it's easy to find stuff. But at the same time, I also do like that random element where some part of the story can be told that changes things up a little bit without having to plan so far ahead. Patrick and I have discussions all the time about the specific preparation that he's having to do for whichever game that he's running, whether it's his Dungeons and Dragons or whether
Dungeons and Dragons or
the third Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm not running 3 yet.
Yet. But again, in the old way of doing things, there's a bit where you have to spend a lot of time preparing for your game session. You want things to be as planned out as best as you can. But with this particular mechanic, I find that it allows you to be a little bit more fluid and flexible with the mission or the session, because you don't have to have that rigidity of going by, okay, well, you had this happen, you did this happened, so that means automatically X, Y, Z is going to happen. It's more the this, you did this, you tried that, it didn't work, something unexpected is going to happen, and then it's okay, we'll roll with it. It allows you to roll more with the punches.
Yeah, I think one of the things that it took me a while to kind of get a hold of, and again, it was letting go of that old school GM mentality. It was like, I am me GM, me say goes, which occasionally I am still guilty of.
Well, sometimes you kind of have to keep ride herd on them, but otherwise, make it up as you go along and hope for the best.
There is a great deal of, as we mentioned earlier, herding cats with this hobby. But one of the things that I liked about, I've learned to like and appreciate about Threat, for instance, is it's something that the players can see keeping the GM honest. It's like, okay, I'm not pulling this out of my ass. I'm it's like, okay, I'm going to pull some of this thread off, and something is about to happen. You don't know what, but you know,
well,
and it helps me as a GM not be a complete jackass in the eyes of the players. I think the younger players latch onto it a lot easier than some of the grognards like me. But
yeah, I mean, I've been playing in role playing games of varying degrees. Again, for many years, and I'm still like, even at this point, I still struggle a little bit with how freeform things can be. And to be honest with you, it's a like freeform or free flowing RPGs can be more fun to play because you don't have to worry too much about things having to be like all the ducks have to be in a row, or this has to happen based on what came before a decision was made. It's more of a, hey, let's just try this. Let's close our eyes, point our finger, and see which way we go. So, and again, that free flowing form, that this particular system and presumably all of Modiphius's systems would include that kind of mechanic and that ability to free flow.
Although you can occasionally still point the players in a way that they get to decide what they are going to do, but they're going to go the direction you want them anyway. Which reminds me of a time back with that Demon Hunters game we were talking about earlier, where I literally put the party on a railroad to guard something as it went to. Of course, that ended with them running into a Sharknado. Because it's technically possible in that world, although all of the sharks were dead because that's too ridiculous even for that game.
Yeah, of course it is. So Dr. Twitch quoted what me says goes, and here's 6th threat to prove it. I love it. I absolutely love
beautiful.
It. It's like I'm in charge here, and we're gonna have fun. Damn it, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, if only it was that easy.
So, again, I know we're like this, like the topics right here. We're just gonna.
Oh yeah, this is such a entirely ridiculous freeform format, because this is like the second one of these I've done, and if I learned nothing from the last one thing somebody told me once is, and I'm trying to embrace this as I get more into doing this, streaming thing, is not to be embarrassed when I have to stop, when I'm not an absolute expert and I have to stop and look things up. And that's just the old man in me, like, very rigid. And
I'm the same way. I like everything has to be perfect, and if it's not perfect, it was never good enough to start with. And it's like, no, you can't have that. You can't have that mindset. The mindset is that you are running a game. People are here to have a good time. Just do your best to help them have a good time. Patrick has been the off again, on again DM for various groups that I've been a part of. I've really had to become comfortable with, just having to stop and say, okay, let's look this up, or let's go back and let's see see how this actually plays out. And
then sometimes I just make it up and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Check I did with my last Saturday game. I literally had to make up. I only had a mountain and the party going there. I had to make everything up because I kind of didn't get my prep done. So let's just make it up and hope for the best. Luckily, it's a homebrew world, and I know where everything in general is. And this was another tower. Let's just change it and make it weird, and drop a spaceship in there.
But of course,
in a high fantasy game, of course you did.
Well, I smashed to the point that there wasn't much left.
Very true. Fair enough. So, I've been looking forward to having this this discussion, and I knew that by the time we got to it, I would probably have already answered most of the questions I had about the system. But I was still looking forward to having this overall discussion because, one, I just enjoy talking about Star Trek. So, in fact, half the time, especially with Patrick over there, he's often having to send me cues and say, "Okay, come on, wrap it up. You're talking too much." So, I have been looking forward for this opportunity, not only talk RPGs and Star Trek, but also to do so with somebody who has had a foothold in the industry for as long as you have done so. So this is as much a privilege as it is, just general shooting the bull, so to speak.
I'm much more comfortable just shooting the bull. So, I when I stop and think of how long I've been doing this, it's like, oh my god.
It's crazy how long we've been playing these games and and doing all of these, we've only been in podcasting since 2010, I think is when Patrick and I got into doing a actual podcast. That was our old 3x2 podcast. And we did that for a couple of years. And then we decided I decided that I wanted to bring more people in because there's only so much you can talk to one other person for so long. So we decided to try to expand on it. And I think we've done so over the past 10 years. We've been doing all this. But it is a case of, we learn as we go along. We learn the new systems. We, latch on and share experiences of old systems we've played. I mean, I think we were having a discussion the other day about champions and their bucket of dice concept.
Yeah, I'm used to buckets of dice. I've got what my daughter refers to as a freakishly heavy dice bag that is nothing but D6s.
I have a few dice bags.
I'm a Shadowrun player.
Yeah,
yep.
There you go.
That explains it.
That's all I need is a
D6. That's it.
A bag of D6s.
Yeah, I need a lot of D6s because I had a lot of NPCs.
Wow.
I was almost inevitably the DM as much as I wanted to play. I was almost inevitably the GM on that one. It's like, oh God, guys,
we just need here. Excuse me while I pull up my.
I've got
keep them in a bucket so you can just kind of scoop.
Yeah, I mean, I've got this big canvas dice bag that has its own gravity well. And...
Sounds about right.
Yep, I would like to say that I have that much, but I have pared down my dice collection significantly.
Over the years, so have I. And I've still got a terrifyingly large selection of D6s that I could go to right this very moment if I wanted to.
I use dice as weights for decoration. That's how much. Right there.
Look at that. Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
And I talk to you every day. How did I miss that?
Because I'm sitting in front of it. You probably might have also missed the book right here, which is even worse organized than Star Trek Adventures.
Oh yeah, that's the
first
that's-
edition AD&D, which I picked up secondhand at a garage sale, or maybe third hand. I don't know.
I'm gonna say I've got I think I have a maybe a second printing of the first edition of the AD&D book here.
Yeah, it's wretched to even read sentences in it.
Well, it's because most of it was written by Gary Gygax, but I digress.
Ugh. Yeah.
So,
I adore Gary for what he did, giving me a hobby that has lasted me all these years. But
yeah, he's not readable.
The man's writing style was scary,
yeah,
frightening.
I still remember. This was going back a few years ago. We had the privilege of interviewing Luke Gygax on Christmas Day.
Oh my goodness!
And it was a challenge, you know, because you obviously you want to be respectful, you want to pay reverence to his father and how he and Dave Arneson
Lars just didn't want to geek out.
Yeah.
I don't geek out, so I'm fine on that.
I geek out all the time. I try not to, but I can't help it.
It's entertaining to watch.
Yeah. I'll have to tell you the story of sometime about how I geeked out with Nathan Rice of Dead Gentleman at Gen Con on his way to a presentation.
It was beautiful to watch.
It was beautifully disastrous. It was.
That's what a lot of beautiful things are, Lars. Catastrophes.
Yeah. I
beautiful catastrophes.
The good thing is that, you know, just to tie everything together, we did actually get to play Shadowrun
that's cool
during that particular Gen Con, but I digress.
Because we're not telling the rest of that story.
No, at least not on camera. We're not, because what happens in Indy stays in Indy.
Anyway,
but when we talk about playing a game such as this, and this is probably the first game that I've been seriously excited to play for a really long time, and it's because I really felt like the people behind this system understood what it was like to be a Trekkie.
We have a remarkable crew, past and present. I was lucky enough to get involved in this back in the day, but the sheer amount of Trek fandom involved in writing this game is staggering.
I felt like it was the first time I'd actually seen real cohesion in the franchise as far as fans go. Like, very seldom do I see open, I guess, criticism of the system itself. Occasionally, like, you know, we have little gripes, but at the same time, I want to say that for the most part, everybody that I have dealt with that has played this game has been an overwhelming fan of how it plays. Not just the fact that it's a Star Trek role-playing game, it's the fact that it plays very well. Once you've got your characters made, for the most part, you're off and ready to go.
Yeah. And that part is all thanks to Nathan Dowdell, who, while he didn't create the system, he has done incredible things with the 2D20 system. And, you know, if you ever have questions, you can ask him. I mean, the Modiphius Discord, the Facebook group, Nathan's there. He will answer your questions if, you know, he hasn't answered them a dozen times already. Otherwise, he'll provide pointers to where he has answered them already. And since I think you guys are getting most of are you guys getting any questions? I'm not seeing anything, you know, because I don't really have anybody watching on
Dr.
on
Twig,
Maya.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Doug
we're-
Fizz says the writing of the fandom really did make me give up my grip on the grip. I'm going to learn to talk one day on the fastest stuff.
Well, we haven't given up our. Almost all of us that are involved in this, who have been doing this for any length of time, we all played FASA. Jim Johnson played FASA. I played FASA for years.
And again,
The FASA Trek game, I played that for years. I love it to death. It is one of the clunkiest. It was a product of its time. You could tell, you could see the war game roots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which wasn't necessarily my thing. I wanted, a lot of what I get in Star Trek Adventures is a much more character focused thing that's a lot less involved in the minutia that you would have in a war game.
Absolutely. Just real quick, Dr. Twitch, who has been communicating with us through excuse me, has been communicating with us through our Twitch conversation. Just direct answer your question, because he says, "Where's Patrick's?" I'll go there. Well, you can go to YouTube and look up the Trekkie Gamer. And that will have the live. We'll have this live feed going right now as well. So this was a first for us, because what we wanted to do is, of course, we wanted to come on this show and we wanted to talk to you about mechanics of the game. We just wanted to geek out about Star Trek in general, but at the same time, we also wanted to share it with as many people as we can. So we gave him the opportunity or the ability to broadcast through our platform.
And he's here.
Hi, Wayne.
Look at that. See?
Technology, ain't it grand?
That's right. Technology is our friend.
Yeah.
I like to think that.
I got it where everybody can see it.
All right.
That's a good day.
Sure. Which one?
Yeah.
This one or that one?
I assume that one. I'll figure out my pointing.
Yeah. That way. Go that way.
Yeah. I keep forgetting.
At least I'm not using the figure I usually use to point.
Probably a good call.
Well, my admin at 40% for my officers are like that. That's good. That's the wonderful part about this whole experience, is that, you got to think, go back 20 years ago, before YouTube existed. The idea is that, we would wanted to be able to do productions like this, to be able to have our own broadcast, we want to be our own stars in our own shows. And it wasn't a thing, because the equipment wasn't readily available. The platforms weren't developed. But now look at it, like everybody and their mom, literally
Stuff we put on cassette tape.
Oh wow, yeah. So remind me about that.
Yeah. That was when we were playing a game that only superficially was Star Trek.
It was Star Trek in name only.
Yeah.
That's another conversation for another time that we won't do live on on the interwebs.
Say not an official system with a lot of stuff that was really not Star Trek.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of that.
It was a
lot of homebrewing.
Wayne wants to know which one.
Oh, we played a game. It was called Star Trek: The Wilderness Years, and what it was, it was effectively it was an old style D&D game that had been converted to play Star Trek. So all of the D&D game mechanics were there. We just played it in a in a Star Trek environment.
It wasn't the modern it wasn't the D20 version that
No,
came
it
out
was
later either.
It was
and
third editions even came out.
And there was some Doctor Who stuff in there and the usual.
Yeah, it was a very much a homebrewed Star Trek universe. That
was special.
That was a crossover of many different sci-fi genres.
I think years later, we started for a short time. We had a D&D game where we took our characters from that game, threw them into this, and we take turns DMing it. It was kind of messed up.
Kinda.
Yeah. I remember some of that.
We had fun with that one.
Let's see. Before I found FASA, I tried to. Let's see. I really tried to kludge together a Gamma World / Metamorphosis Alpha Trek game. That kludge did not carry water.
I think there are plenty. Go ahead.
A lot of the stuff that I tried to do with, for Trek, with Trek, Traveler, great system, but you couldn't really. It was hard to adapt because of some of the stuff that was baked into that Mark and guys at GDW had baked into Traveler back in the day. Made it a little difficult, unless because so much of the stuff of the game world is baked into the rule system, and you're essentially having to completely rewrite the rules if you're trying to port something else into it. But what can you do?
Well, and that's very true.
Yeah, I think probably nowadays, if we didn't have a great game to play, there's number of systems that are out there that you could easily graft Star Trek onto that would also play pretty well.
Yeah.
Why do that when we've got a game?
Well, I was, some friends of mine, we've been playing an online game for close to 15 years. We started in Decipher and played it until I think the Quadrant books, were all out before we converted over to STA. But yeah, I mean, Decipher had its own issues. I liked Decipher's presentation a little better because it was a much, the original core book for Star Trek Adventures was very Starfleet focused.
Yep.
If you wanted to play a mixed crew like Voyager or DS9, you really had to kind of fiddle with things a bit to make it work. You could make it work. It was a lot easier to make it work out of the box than some other systems. But yeah, that was the big advantage that I saw with Decipher, which when I was talking with Jim a few weeks ago, was one of the things they kind of seemed to have adopted into second edition as a much broader base of things. It's not, you're not locked into Starfleet. You're not locked into the, beautiful as I think the Klingon core is, you're not locked into the Klingon Defense Force.
Right. Well, it's actually it's going to be interesting to see how all this kind of comes together, because there was some changes that Star Trek Online made to the Star Trek canon, I guess, that I wasn't 100% prepared for, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder how they're going to go with that one. For example, like I guess the Gorn hegemony being under the control of the Klingon Empire now,
I think that was mainly because they needed to faction it off and put it into a faction. So it's like, how can we make this work? Oh, let's stick them to Klingons.
Yeah,
that'll work.
But still, they made changes in such a way that allowed for a much more, I think, a broader range of playing that particular game. And now we have, and now we have I guess a game system that is working toward having a lot more flexibility.
Yeah. That was one of the things that I was real happy here about. I had very, very little to do with second edition because of everybody's time commitments and how things were coming together at the time they were assembling that. I had a little bit I have a little bit of writing there, but I didn't have a whole lot to do with. I had nothing to do with how it was organized and new species and things like that. But I was very happy when I was talking to Jim that he had taken that bit of inspiration from the Decipher game and having it more of an open sandbox as far as setting the game up for people, instead of saying, hey, here you are, Starfleet crew, now what do you do? So I was happy to hear that. I was having finally seen the list of species that it's included, like this nearly double the species in second as there were in the first edition core book. There were like 8 species in the first edition. There's 14 in second. So much.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's but the thing is that they are expanding on it, and that's the important thing, is they are giving players the opportunity to build a much more open-ended sort of situation. It doesn't have to necessarily be a Starfleet ship. It doesn't have to be particularly a Klingon ship, or you don't see much. We haven't seen really much in the way of the Romulans, so to speak. But I am certain that we will see more of them to come in the next edition.
Oh yeah. I can't imagine. I mean, they're one of the core species in the book now, so I'm hoping that we see more of them.
Right.
The thing is, we don't have that much. For all that we talk about the Romulans, there's not nearly that much canon about them in the shows, and that's one of the things I like about this game is they don't do a whole lot of extraneous world building. I mean, it'd be great if you did this, and this, but then the next series that comes out could completely invalidate it. Heck, the next episode that comes out could completely invalidate it, which is, I think, part of what was causing issues with Decipher, besides Decipher's own issues at the time, was the fact that Enterprise was coming out and changing.
Of course.
It was at the time Enterprise was out and new episodes were, and that's why we don't do as much of we've got the Shackleton Expanse, which Paramount said, hey, yeah, grab yourself a section of space and run with it, it's all yours. But
it makes it a little more interesting.
I was going somewhere with that, and
yeah. Well, the idea is that there is a certain amount of I guess gatekeeping that they have to do, because otherwise they could paint themselves into a corner, because we want all of this stuff to be kind of cohesive, and that was one of the things that I loved very much about the Star Wars universe, when Lucasfilm was still owned by George Lucas. every piece of material that came out regarding Star Wars had to marry with what had already been established. So, what was in the original trilogy was canon. What came in the prequel movies, canon. What was in the novels, canon. What happened in the role-playing games, canon. Everything had to marry up. If it differed, then it didn't exist.
And then Disney came along.
Then Disney came along and bought Lucasfilm and effectively uncanonized everything but the movies and the TV series. But again, that's something we've been wanting in the Star Trek franchise for a long time, is that cohesiveness of the canon materials. And it's difficult because, like you said, nobody's beholden to anybody else for the development of anything. So, you have to retcon things so much. Just last night, I watched A City on the Edge of Forever. I hadn't watched any TOS for a long time. I felt the mood to watch a little Star Trek. Boom, put it on. Watching it, I'm like, this is a wonderful story. This is a great telling of this. And then, spoiler alert, the Guardian makes an appearance in another series. You're just like, are they going to go? Like, I mean, how faithful are they going to be? And truth of the fact is they weren't very faithful, but that is something you run into. It is something you have to deal with, and it goes from system to system. It goes from show to show, from movie to movie. It just depends on who's in charge, and if you don't, if you don't really put all your ducks in a row, then you run into situations like we run into with all these franchises. Again, you're like, well, there isn't that much in the way of canon material as far as the Romulans go in the series. And you're right. Every time we see them, it's almost like it is them purposely trying to say, hey, we're going to build this out a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit, just to give you a little bit more to go with. But all
the Kurtzman era came along.
Oh yeah, don't get me started on that one, but yeah,
little retconning here and there every other episode sometimes. But
I only caught part of that. What did you?
The Kurtzman, a lot of the things, especially the biggest problem that tends to happen, especially with Discovery, is they literally dropped it in a period with so much, and there's so much little bits of retcon they keep doing, because there's all this cool stuff that happens later, but they're set just before that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about specifically when I talk about from the game perspective, it's difficult because they basically have to try to stick with what has been established up until that point, because they want people to come and buy their product. Ultimately, Modiphius wants to create a fun and interactive Star Trek game, but more than anything else, they want to sell books. So that being said, you have to go off of what has been established.
Right.
And with each of these series, it seems like it's almost like a sport. That's like, how can we change things to make it cool from our perspective, but use stuff that's already been pre-established. So you run into situations like that. Like you said, you have to use what's available, but at the same time, try to find a way to put your own spin on that particular aspect of the franchise.
Right. And like I said, I don't have nearly the issue with the use of the Guardian in Disco that you guys do, but I know you guys are.
It was fine by me. I just make jokes about Michael Burnham, savior of the universe, every season.
You're not alone.
I wonder how she's going to save the universe this final season.
Oh,
Although the Indiana Jones thing is better than what's getting produced in the actual Indiana Jones franchise. So
Look,
yay.
I'm just gonna go out there and say this, okay? Just so it's on record. I have seen the end of Discovery, and I can tell you that I was impressed. I was satisfied. I know that's you're probably thinking I'm sick, I'm not feeling well, but I was satisfied with how they wrapped up the series.
I'm still a few eps out.
But when it comes down to my whole point, I guess what I wanted to say is that even if I don't particularly agree with how they did something, they're stuck. Like they're stuck. They have to try to make things fit together, while at the same time putting their own spin on things. It wasn't that I didn't like something in particular. It was more the fact that why did you do it that way? Why did you have to make a change? Why
Like
could
Discovery Klingons?
Oh yeah. Why could you not do this? And it's it's the same thing with all of these games. We've seen everything from FASA all the way. So what we got here? We got FASA, we got Last Unicorn Games, we got Decipher and Modiphius. Those are the 4 official.
Well, yeah, those are the four biggies. Yeah, there've been a couple of minor little things, and
Apparently there was a GURPS version.
Yeah, there's GURPS Prime Directive, which is a lot more related to the Starfleet universe from Amarillo Design Bureau, which is another topic of discussion entirely.
Oh yeah, the Starfleet Battles one as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's that, and that is an interesting licensing situation that we can discuss some of the time, because that's a long conversation.
Oh, I bet. I mean, it's much like FASA and how that all went sideways on them.
Yeah, but unlike what FASA did, Steve Cole is very, very careful to stay within the limits of his license, which is, when he got that license all those years ago, Paramount didn't. The motion picture wasn't even out yet. The first movie, all you had was the original series and the animated series, and some of the stuff that was in the Franz Joseph technical manual. But Steve's license is, I believe, pretty much perpetual, with the way it's set up, and he is very, very meticulous about remaining within the bounds of what he's allowed to do, and Paramount apparently signs off on it. So,
but at the same time, I mean, they do a faithful job of maintaining some order of continuity. If you stick within the bounds of your license and you are doing things that are marrying up with other things that have been pre-established, I think that's perfectly fine. Even if you take a little bit of artistic license, I mean, and there's stuff. I mean, stuff I've seen in series where I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. But of course, that's just me. That's just me. It has nothing to do with whether or not something is a good interpretation of the particular universe that you're building upon. I think one of the bones that I continuously go on about is the FASA teased me with the existence of Starfleet Marines, and everybody else, literally everybody else, is like, they don't exist. They don't exist. I'm like, but they don't exist. Oh, fine. Okay, fine.
You can section 31 them now.
Officially, they don't, but you do have Makos.
Yes.
And I mean, Rene Auberjonois' character in Star Trek VI was not a captain.
That's right. He was a colonel.
So I mean, there are some sideways references I don't think, from a licensing standpoint, Paramount wants to commit to that. But there's enough stuff that has slipped in here and there that, and we've got material for it in the game. There's stuff for it for Mako's right now. In the game, there are more militaristic options for characters in the operations division source book, in the player's guide, which is where a lot of the character stuff for a second edition is going to be adopting a lot of the stuff from the player's guide, because by that time we had a fairly mature, young but mature game line, and you can start expanding on what you can do with it. Especially when they started, they finally got rules for kids. You can have young Borglings. You can have your you can have your Wesleys and your Jakes and your Nogs. You've got cadets, so you can have your Tillys and your young Uhuras.
So what they give a lot of, you're saying is they give a lot of leeway for developing anything you want to really run.
Yeah. There's a lot of leeway, and like I say, we have Mako's canonically from Enterprise, and ways to build Mako characters in like I say, in the Ops Division book. There's stuff in there, and I know there's Allied military and other approaches in the player's guide. And if you want Starfleet Marines, my God, go for it. There's enough stuff there. From a licensing standpoint, I don't think Modiphius can actually do anything with Starfleet Marines because
they're not focused canon.
Yeah, Paramount is not necessarily hip on the idea.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is getting burned by, there are reasons FASA lost the license.
Right. And I mean, I know that, I think it had, again, it's a conversation for another time, but I believe that part of the issue was that they were diverging too far from Gene's vision. And I understood that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the issue arose from mostly because he didn't agree with the militaristic portrayal of Starfleet.
There was that. One of the big things that, FASA was originally a war games company. They did war games. That was their roots, and you can see that in FASA's Star Trek role-playing game. You can see that in, to a lesser degree in Shadowrun. But then you've got the actual war games like BattleTech and some of the other stuff that they did. But that was their roots. That's what they did, and unfortunately, that kind of started conflicting with how, at the time, Paramount and Gene were looking at things. A lot of it was that some of the specific stuff that happened was they got very militaristic in their next generation stuff, which they weren't supposed to be doing anyway because that wasn't in their license yet.
I remember the Next Generation Officers Manual and the Season 1 guide. I used to have both of those at one point. So, and I remember those being very much leaning more towards a military bend than just a more scientific exploration.
Yeah. Well, I was uncomfortable. I didn't think it was all that great, but I was uncomfortable. I'm a veteran. I did my time in the Air Force back in the day, and that's where I played most of my Fast Trek games with my buddies in the Air Force. Did that for years, and but I was uncomfortable with how militaristic the next gen officers manual was, leaning into the military side of things.
TNG as a series was not militaristic.
Not even a little bit. That's why I was. But
I mean, they get into the shooting occasionally because otherwise you don't have a show. Otherwise, you don't have that interesting of a show.
Yeah.
But sometimes they blow the heads off aliens in that one episode where they were with the parasites.
Yeah, they went a little bit body horror, and that didn't work out real well. And they never really mentioned it again. He's like, you remember 35
Nor did Code of Honor, but that's beside the point.
Oh, nobody likes Code of Honor. I mean, don't get Frakes started on Code of Honor.
If I could get him started on Code of Honor.
There are videos out there. It's fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it, but there are videos out there where he goes off, and it's like, oh wow. Grab some popcorn. Grab some popcorn, guys. Here we go. Yeah. It's time.
Let's take a mediocre concept and see how badly we can execute. Let's take a concept and see how badly we can execute it.
And then, they did it again with the Irish Clones episode.
A
couple of years later, the next year. I'm sorry, the next year, because that was a Pulaski episode. I just
that's right, it was season 2. Yep, I remember that.
So that one was also terrible. But,
Star Trek occasionally being progressive and occasionally problematic at the same time.
Yeah, they're. But I actually that was the big reason FASA lost the license. And ultimately, I think that's why Paramount. Paramount just kind of got gun shy about the concept of the Starfleet Marines, and I think that's why we got Makos instead of Marines on Enterprise Season 3. It was because they did not want to go there. But that's what they are.
Oh yeah,
basically. Absolutely. I mean, let's be honest. That's what they are, and they are just because you never see them. They're clear, some kind of unit, similar unit was still in operation at least as recently as 2293 when Star Trek 6 was going down, because they were planning Operation Return.
And there was also, most people probably wouldn't remember it from Star Trek Beyond. The captain, Idris Elba.
Idris Elba. He was he started life as a Mako.
So we know that they have canonized the concept. I just, again, for me, it was a character
background
had wanted to play, and everybody was like, no, that's way too militaristic for Star Trek. Star Trek is about a hopeful future and peace and exploration and all that stuff. I'm like, then why?
Section 31.
Yeah, then why is Star Trek for like the last 10 or plus years been like the bloodiest it's been ever? But again, I digress. I know I can go on like a dog with a bone.
Well, we're gonna have to get back on just to talk Trek more, because and leave the game
about
out.
Threat and momentum.
Someday we could talk about threat and momentum. Yeah.
What's that all about?
Yeah, it's something in the game. We don't have to worry about that right now, guys. It has been an hour and 20 minutes, and I know you've got a game tonight.
We do.
To get ready.
We don't have to. It's mostly streamed, so it's click a few things, change the title. We're ready.
Yeah. Well, I am going to let you guys get off the saying get ready for said game, and I'm going to go tend to my family. It has been an absolute pleasure having you guys here. I appreciate you coming in so much. Thank you so much.
We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, and actually talking about a game. Yeah.
By the way, I checked back on the server. I joined early in March to talk with you to get this.
Good night.
My goodness.
Yeah. So talking about back in March. It is now the end of May.
So 2025.
Here we go.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, there we are. All right. But I want to take a moment. Thank you. Shill what you want to shill. Hype what you want to hype. Tell everybody where they can find you and what to do.
Can people find us? We don't know.
I'm in theory.
Well, Wayne did. And then he came over to you, so we probably lost him forever.
That's right. We've lost him forever. Sorry, Wayne. We loved you. It was short-lived, but we loved you.
Oh, hold on. He followed. Okay. Yay.
We
got him.
We got him. Okay.
Cool.
So, thank you
Now
very
we're
much.
not going to talk in Star Trek Adventures for a long time again.
Never again. We'll never play it. We'll never talk about it again.
Yeah,
I'll just join the group and I'll leave Patrick alone into it and I'll go off and play something else. Anyways, thank you very much again for having us here. It is always a pleasure talking to you. People can find us at redshirtgeeks.tv. That will take you to our YouTube channel where all 10 years of our content now resides. I know 10 years. It's in almost,
except for the few things we've thrown away because that needed to go away.
Yeah, but that was 3x2 stuff, so we can forget that. So yeah, absolutely. You can find us on Twitch, Red Shirt Geeks, Facebook, the Red Shirt Geeks, X, formerly that was it the
site formerly known as Twitter.
Yes, thank you.
We don't need to use that letter when referring to it.
Yeah, Red Shirt Geeks, and of course here.
You sense the theme going here.
Yeah, I'm getting an impression that there's some uniformity of.
Absolutely.
But thank you guys for coming on. Good luck with your game tonight, and
it's Stardew. It'll be easy. Run around, farm.
Sunday Stardew.
Swing a star a quarter two. All right. Thanks
for coming on, guys.
Thank you very much.
Anytime. All right. And now the endless stream of buttons to get us shut down. Good night, everybody.
Say good night.